Hi, I am Dr. Jennifer Tanner. I am the founder of the Run Well Summits for Runners Health. Today we have a great speaker. We are going to talk with Bonnie Flemington. I met Bonnie last year probably at a convention in Florida, and I was just fell in love right away with all the awesome things that Bonnie is doing with her life right now. But Bonnie, let's read a little bit of her bio. How are you doing, Bonnie?
I'm great. I'm great, Jen. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So Bonnie is a certified nutritionist and speaker. She runs online and she runs online and corporate wellness programs and works with individual clients specializing in strategies for balancing weight and hormones, reducing inflammation, and increasing energy. Bonnie's great passion is in creating a personalized system for her clients so they know exactly what foods, habits, and supplements they need to achieve greater health outcomes. That's fantastic. So welcome, Bonnie. Today we're going to be talking about injuries and prevention and the take that a nutritionist, or the view that a nutritionist takes on that. So welcome, Bonnie. Tell us about what you do.
Thank you very much, Jen, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I love to focus on the nutrition aspect, of course, of wellness. And in this case today, we're going to be talking a lot about athletes and their injury prevention so that they can perform at their best the way they want to. And so I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot of my tips, both about creating a personalized plan, how mindset factors in, because that's always a piece of what I work with clients on. And then getting into really helping people take some action by giving them some actual foods that they can focus on. And at the end, I'll be sharing an actual recipe book that people can take home so that they can get started.
Ooh, fantastic. I can't wait. Let's get right into it.
Okay, great. All right, so I have a few slides because for many people, a visual can be helpful in retaining some information that we'll talk about. Of course, you and I will have a conversation about it throughout, but I'll share those slides now.
Okay, perfect. Bring that up.
All right. So here we are. So the focus for me today is the nutrition strategies for injury prevention and for performance. And I want to start out with some factors that increase the risk of injuries, just to start. And I have some three different things that I want to focus on. And the first one doesn't really focus on the nutrition, but I think it's important because there are some genetic factors that can increase your risk of injury. But I don't believe that your genes are your destiny. Their epigenetics, meaning your ability to control your risk factors of your genes, are very strong, and there's lots of things you can do. So for those people who have done genetic testing or are interested in it, there is a particular gene that encodes for making collagen that strengthens and supports tendons. Certain variations, though, are associated with an increased risk of soft tissue injuries. So that would be maybe an ACL or an Achilles injury, but no worries, there is something you can do. It really just means that for those people, you need to focus on those warm-up, static, and dynamic stretches to then modify those risk factors for you.
Okay, so if somebody did a test and they said, oh my goodness, I have the COL5A1, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are guaranteed to have injuries. It might just be kind of one of those risk factors that's leading towards their injuries.
Absolutely.
Okay.
As I mentioned, your genes are not your destiny. There's a lot you can do. It just would mean that you would want to be mindful of always doing a proper warm-up and a proper cool down, and then that would mitigate your risk so that you can perform just like everyone else.
Okay.
So I just thought I would mention that because genetic testing is something that I focus on in my practice with other health and wellness markers and nutrient deficiencies and things. So this can be great information. But really, I want to focus on the nutrition of nutrient deficiencies and inflammation as increasing your risk of injuries. Athletes have greater demands for both macronutrients, meaning the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, but also micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals. And insufficient energy intake and also insufficient nutrient intake, so those vitamins and minerals, can result in reduced strength or increased fatigue that then increases your risk of injury. So it's really important not just to get enough calories, but to make sure that the foods you're choosing have a lot of vitamins and minerals in there too. Also, hydration's important to reduce your risk factors for injuries.
So would you say if somebody has just began running or has, was normally running a 5K and now is maybe running a 25K, and would you say it wouldn't be unusual for them to find themselves more hungry and, requiring more food?
Absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with more quantity of food, but focusing on the quality is also going to be really important for them, because they'll want to have those vitamins and minerals to help their cells both to perform and to recover, so they reduce the risk of injury.
Yes, because I definitely notice when I run half marathons or full marathons, I am hungry all the time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I would imagine that happens to quite a lot of other people, that they get hungry and don't suppress those hunger sensations. Body is asking for more fuel.
Absolutely. And even right after, if you can have a carbohydrate and protein snack right after your workout within 30 minutes, you are going to speed up your rate of recovery. So then, again, that will reduce your risk of injuries.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Inflammation is another factor that can increase risk of injury. Chronic inflammation in the gut can impair the body's ability to just respond and deal with normal inflammation that occurs during our fitness and exercise routines. So this chronic inflammation can result from poor diet, lack of sleep, excess alcohol intake, and even overtraining. So one of the things that can be done to improve our gut health is probiotics, really as a recovery tool, and it may mitigate the negative effects of chronic inflammation.
So for somebody who might not know what a probiotic is, could you give a brief description of what are probiotics? We hear about them, they're in frozen yogurt.
Right. Exactly. So probiotics are those good gut bacteria in our digestive tract, in our intestinal tract. We have both good gut bacteria and what you might call bad gut bacteria. The most important thing is that they're kept in balance. Okay. So there are certain foods where we can introduce additional good gut bacteria. So like fermented foods, like sauerkraut or kimchi. But then we can also take those good gut bacteria as a supplement. And typically that's what we're referring to when we talk about probiotics. The ones in yogurt typically do not have very many probiotics in it. And often the yogurt comes with a lot of sugar and other things you don't want. So sometimes a supplement probiotic can be really helpful.
Okay, yes, because the supplement wouldn't have those added sugars and whatnot, right? It would just be the bacteria.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Great.
Okay, so shifting a little bit to our mindset and nutrition, nutrient absorption. So it goes along this, as I talk about the autonomic branches of our nervous system, this diagram might look a little bit complicated, but I'm going to try and simplify it for you. We have two branches of our nervous system. One is the sympathetic, when we're exercising, when we're anxious, when we need to have the energy to get up and go. And then the parasympathetic is when we can do some deep breathing and relax. And that is the state that we need to be in when we're eating, because that is when the energy is going to be going to our digestive tract. so that we have blood flow to our digestive organs. We can properly break down our food and absorb the nutrients. What happens for many of us is that throughout the day, our to-do list or our email list is creating some anxieties that keep us in that sympathetic nervous system, when really that's the state we want to be at temporarily when we are focusing on our exercise, or perhaps we need to focus because we're getting cut off on the highway from a car. But the sympathetic is intended to be a temporary state. So many of us spend much of our day in that state, and it creates excess inflammation in the body, and also makes it hard for us to break down our food and get the nutrients from all that good food we're eating.
So interesting that you mentioned the email list. How many times a day are we checking our phones or our computers for those emails? Like, I forget the stats on how many times in just 1 hour we're looking at our phone. And like you said, that email list, oh my goodness, this person has emailed, they haven't emailed, there's 200 emails. It's a chronic, like it's chronically depleting the system. But so interesting that you're saying that we're supposed to be in this fight or flight response only temporarily, but if we're checking those emails
regularly
tens to hundreds of times per day, then we're awesome, or keep going back into that state that is meant to be survival.
Exactly.
So interesting, the emails. I find one good technique is blocking off time for the emails. Say, I am going to give myself 20 minutes when I get into work. This is my email checking time. And then maybe allot another time later in the day. And then you're not constantly going back into that phone to look at that. Good point, Bonnie.
I agree. Yes, that's a really great idea. Good technique for everyone to use. So this is how mindset really factors into what we have already talked about, and the importance of getting nutrients into our cells. And one of the other things actually that this sympathetic nervous system can create is high blood sugar, because your body's getting prepared to fight or flight. And so it can create some blood sugar imbalances, and that can create peaks and crashes in energy that you don't want to have. If you want to perform in your race, you want to have more sustained energy too. So that leads me into the foods that we can use. So let's take some action here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so some actual foods as medicine. So those, I've categorized these into harming foods and healing foods. And while it probably makes sense that the foods that are going to be nutrient poor and induce inflammation are those processed foods, packaged baked goods, chips. It makes sense, but sometimes it is worthwhile to just stop and have a look and really think about what you're choosing, and focus more on introducing the healing foods into your diet rather than feeling restricted by what you feel you have to take away. Because if you can focus more on what you're adding in, it's not going to, you won't be feeling deprived. You'll be focusing more on the positive, and then it'll just squeeze out the foods that you don't want to be having. So I'd love to focus on things like antioxidants. Blueberries, cherries are great for muscle soreness. Anti-inflammatory foods, cruciferous vegetables. If you don't know what those are things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. Turmeric is another great anti-inflammatory spice. You can use the root, or it comes in a dried powder. Omega-3s are fantastic to reduce inflammation. That can come from our fatty fish like salmon, or our nuts and seeds like walnuts, flaxseed. We want slow releasing carbs too. So sweet potato is an excellent one. My son now uses it at your recommendation. Actually, you and I chatted about sweet potato, and he uses it before his race days.
Oh, so many athletes will use sweet potato. It is a great one. You'll find Ironmen are using the sweet potatoes, cyclists, runners. They are just packing themselves with sweet potatoes.
Absolutely. So that's become a bit of a routine for us. And hydrating foods, because we want to stay hydrated. tomatoes, bell peppers, zucchini, and you might not think of chia as a hydrating food, but it really helps your body hold on to water and keep yourself hydrated.
Okay. Yeah, I think with the harming foods, most of us understand that those processed packaged kind of junk foods are not necessarily the most nutrient dense, but I think this helps understand why maybe, right? So it is contributing to some of the inflammation that you mentioned on the previous slide. They're not as nutrient dense as some of the foods lower down on the slide. And I think having that understanding helps us with our choices. Right? So those are not necessarily things to never have, but I really like focus on the positive. That's a great point because diet is really difficult to change and people can get quite upset and have a lowered mood if they're feeling completely deprived. So really focusing on, look at all the options down there on the healing side. So many great choices, fruits, vegetables, proteins are in there. You've got some great carbs. Yeah. Great suggestion. What's your favorite of that list?
Oh, I love to have, I love cruciferous vegetables with some kind of protein. And for snacks, I love to have berries and nuts. So those are some of my favorite foods.
Yeah, I like the cherries stands out for me. I'll make a trail mix and throw some dried cherries into that post run. I find that's a good one. And my youngest, she loves Brussels sprouts. So we're making Brussels sprouts all the time. She thinks they're like little bushes.
Absolutely. We had a shift in our family when no one liked Brussels sprouts, and I started sauteing them and roasting them. And just that change in how we prepared them made them really start to like them.
Okay, great. So all those people with families out there, don't give up. Just try a different, take a break from it, and then try making it in a different way or mixing it into something else instead of just on its own. Yeah, good tip.
Exactly. And so the free offer that I have for you to take home today is a set of recipes that does include many of these foods, so that it's not just a list of foods on a piece of paper, but it's actually something that you can take into your kitchen and start to get some ideas on how to incorporate them into your daily routines.
Oh, thank you, Bonnie. That's going to be so helpful because I think that's really important, right? We see these foods, we think, oh, that's fantastic. I don't know what to do with Brussels sprouts, so I'm just not going to eat them. But thank you for providing that. That will be in the notes after, a link to Bonnie's offer there, so you can have those tools to get started. Now, Bonnie, if somebody really liked what they heard, how might they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. So for anyone here listening today, I will be offering a free 20-minute call to anyone that wants to reach out, talk about what their goals are, what they've tried so far, and I'd love to help give you a tip on where your next step could be. And that, again, to book that will be in the notes. And you can also check me out on my website at bonnieflemington.com. I have a lot of great articles there. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Okay, Bonnie, so you are located in Canada, but you are able to see people anywhere in the world. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. I have a great online client system where we can have teleconference calls, and you can do it from the comfort of your own home, and we can find a suitable time that works.
And you offer both one-on-one visits and programs you have, right?
Yes, that's right. So I will have a program coming up in the fall, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone about whether or not that's a great fit for you. It's really a weekly, that includes meal plans, but it includes a weekly theme so that you can build on your goal setting, listening to your body, working on your digestion, and a number of other topics throughout the fall. And so I'd be happy to discuss that program, send information to anyone who is interested.
Wonderful. So just to recap a few things that Bonnie touched on here. Runners, you have a greater demand, so you may need that higher caloric intake, but choosing some of those healing foods as those extra calories to be adding in throughout the day. Having a protein or carb snack about 30 minutes after your run. Bonnie, do you have a favorite protein carb snack that you gravitate towards?
I like to recommend things that are easily portable because often we are out and on the go. So something like hummus and carrots can be a great snack, or if you prepare energy balls that have some hemp seeds in it, because hemp will have some good protein in there.
Great. Both super easy. And the energy balls you could prepare ahead of time, pop them in the freezer, and just grab a couple on your way out. Bonnie also recommends probiotics, and she was feeling more as a supplement as opposed to the food-based, just to get some of the higher dosages in there. Your mindset has a huge impact on that absorption and the emails, how often we're checking those. And really focus on the positive. Focus on all the foods that you can be adding in. And with Bonnie's offer of these recipes, I want everyone, this is your challenge. I want you to try at least one of the recipes on Bonnie's
in the ebook.
It's going to be on her ebook, that she's going to be providing with you guys. You may fall in love with a new food. So
I would love to hear how you like it too.
Yeah, definitely. You could reach out to Bonnie, reach out to us. We'd love the feedback and see what was your favorite recipe on the list. So Bonnie, it was great having you today. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Wonderful. And everyone will see you at the next seminar.
Fantastic. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Bye.